בעיצומה. אנחנו נלחמים בכל החזיתות.
أنا بتمنى أرجع لركام منزلي في عام 2024.
On New Year's Day, Israeli tanks pulled out of some Gaza City districts. But ahead of its planned troop reduction, Israel says the war in Gaza still has many months to go. Speaking at a media briefing, the Israeli Prime Minister repeated that Israel will continue to fight until the completion of all its objectives.
המלחמה נמצאת בעיצומה.
The war is in full swing. We are fighting on all fronts. We have great successes, but we also have painful prices. Achieving victory requires more time. As the Chief of Staff said this week, the war will continue for many more months. My policy is clear. We continue to fight until the completion of all the objectives of the war, and above all, the elimination of Hamas and the release of all our abductees.
So even as Israel signals a potential shift in its tactics, Israeli forces killed Adel Msammah, a commander in the Hamas's Nukhba force, who allegedly led the October 7th massacre in South Israel. He is also believed to have directed Hamas gunmen to other communities, including the kibbutz of Nirim and Deir. The IDF maintains that Msammah has been heavily involved in the fighting in the Gaza Strip since October 7th. As per the Israeli military, the Nukhba commander was killed in an Israeli Air Force airstrike directed by Israeli ground troops. At the same time, in a major development, with the Israeli military increasingly gaining control on the ground, the IDF has decided to release 5 brigades from combat in the Gaza Strip. The brigades tasked with training soldiers will return to carrying out their usual activity.
These days, we are also adjusting the plan of forces deployment in Gaza, and in the array of reservists, some of the reservist soldiers will return to their families and their jobs this week. This will allow a significant relief for the economy and will allow them to gather strength ahead of the coming activities in the next year, and the fighting will continue and we will need them.
In Gaza, the bombardment continues. The scale of suffering in the besieged strip continues to be alarming. Residents of Sheikh Radwan district in Gaza City said tanks were withdrawn after 10 days of the most intense warfare in the conflict. As the new year dawns, there is one hope and prayer by the displaced Palestinians that the conflict comes to an end and they return home.
My New Year wish is to see truce being reached as quickly as possible, so that I can go back to Gaza City, go back home, return to school and reunite with my friends, since I have been missing my friends, Gaza City and my home so much.
On Saturday, Benjamin Netanyahu said the country must retake control of Gaza's border with Egypt. Retaking the border would be a de facto reversal of Israel's 2005 withdrawal from Gaza, raising new questions over the future of the enclave and prospects for a Palestinian state. Helit Barel is the former director at Israel's National Security Council. She is now joining us live from Tel Aviv. Helit, Happy New Year and thank you for making time for us. Welcome. Talk to us about Israel's gains in the war by eliminating the commander of the Nukhba force. With your own intel, what else do you think is left, because most of the masterminds of the heinous October 7th attack have been eliminated? And why is Israel reducing its troops?
Well, I think we need to understand that as important as it is to get those involved for what they had done and to eliminate the heads, those are things that are important. They are symbolic. They can certainly affect what
We seem to have lost Helit Barel. We'll get her in a few moments because we understand that Israel is planning to reduce its troops in the war, and again we do understand that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that the war will continue for as long as it takes until Hamas is completely eliminated. And we also understand that with the new year comes a new dawn for Palestinians because they have to move, still have to move southwards. And we want to understand why the Israeli government resorted to reducing their troops in the Gaza Strip. So we are trying to get Helit Barel, who is the former director at Israel's National Security Council. She's now back. Helit, good to see you back again.
Yeah,
sorry, we lost you there. What were you saying?
Yep. Sorry for the connectivity issue. I'm saying that getting the heads of Hamas's military forces is important both symbolically and it's important because of their ability to command and for the morale of the troops. But having said that, that's not really how you win a war. How you win a war is everything combined at once. And so Israel's control on the ground, but also Israel's ability to now make gains in the underground complex of Hamas is no less important and possibly more important in being able to significantly degrade Hamas's abilities to wage war and to govern the Gaza Strip. And I think that is really the target. To actually get each and every one, including Yahya Sinwar, for example, might take much longer. And that's okay. It will happen. It just might take much longer. And it doesn't necessarily require the mode of war that we have been in so far. You need to understand when Israel first went into the Gaza Strip after October 7th, it took 2 weeks, but when we did go in, we went in fighting truly an army, a terror organization that has raised an army, that amount of weaponry and that amount of training and the underground facilities. But now they've been reduced really back to what they are, which is a terrorist organization. And I think the right way to fight a terrorist organization is not necessarily with the same amount of forces. So the withdrawal of forces makes sense on a lot of levels to me.
Helit, before I let you go, very quickly, why is Israel reducing their troops?
Once again, I think we're now facing in Gaza more of a guerrilla situation than we are a full-out war, army to army, as it was in the beginning. I think, we have amassed a lot of forces in Gaza, have gotten pretty strong control of the northern part of Gaza, still working at it on the southern part. It's inconsistent there. But there simply probably is a better way to continue and pursue the goals of the war, which, as I remind you, are first and foremost the return of 129 hostages. And second, to completely degrade Hamas's capacity to wage war, to rule in the Gaza Strip, to have any meaningful presence there. Of course, that will also require a political solution. It can't only be a military solution. And of course, it will require some sort of political resolution of the hostage situation as well.
All right, I've been talking to Helit Barel. He's a former director at Israel's National Security Council. Helit, thank you very much for talking to us today, and Happy New Year to you again.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.